So, by the way, you just had my buddy Russell Wilson on a podcast. So I contend the Stafford thing worked magic fast. Brady pretty fast. I think Russell Wilson is going to work in Denver like lightning quick. Tell me I'm wrong. What do you make of it?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think I first of all, I love Nathaniel Hackett. I think he's an absolute stud. I got to know him a little bit from his time in Green Bay, and then I connected with him again a few weeks back down at the owners meeting. The way he sees the game, the way he wants to play offensive football, you bring in a guy like Russ, and it's a perfect marriage. It's a perfect match, and kind of how they see the game and how they want to, their identity of the offense and just the identity of the team. And that's really what Russ has been searching for. He wants to be a quarterback driven team, a quarterback driven offense, a pass driven offense, and he's going to get his chance. So, I mean, you mentioned those other guys that, changed sceneries and took great careers and even elevated them, Stafford and Brady. And there's no reason to think, I'm with you, there's no reason to think that Russ can't have a similar first year and, rattle off, a really successful kind of second chapter out there in Denver.
Greg, we've had housing bubbles and stock market bubbles and tech bubbles. And I look at the wide receiver payments over the last couple of months, and I think, do we have a wide receiver bubble? Jags, Dolphins, some of these teams that have not been brilliantly run, whereas Green Bay and Kansas City are like, nah, we're not going to pay that for a wide receiver. And part of me just instinctively is like, the Raiders paid a lot, and the Jags and the Dolphins and the Giants have paid a fortune. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be cynical, but do you think it could be a little bit of, you watch Burrow and Stafford in the Super Bowl, and everybody's like, man, it's these offenses, we got to keep up. Are we in a wide receiver bubble, maybe a tad?
I think what teams are seeing is if they feel like they don't have the top tier, right? The Mahomes, the Rodgers, to two teams who just let their number one receiver just walk, in Tyreek and Devontae Adams. I think some teams that when you feel like you have Patrick Mahomes and you have Rodgers, and you almost feel like you can get away with maybe having a slightly, one step down from the quote unquote elite top guy, because the quarterback is so good, he can elevate the play around them. You mentioned Jacksonville, they kind of went crazy and threw the whole wide receiver market kind of out of whack, which is what's made Deebo Samuel and Tyreek and all these guys want new money. They're trying to say, okay, we might not have that marquee guy, or maybe we have a young quarterback who we're not paying a lot, like in Jacksonville. We can afford for a few years to maybe overspend on talent around the quarterback to elevate the play of the quarterback. And then if you're, the idea is you want to be one of the marquee teams with Aaron Rodgers or Brady, where that quarterback elevates the play of everybody else around him, and you don't necessarily have to pay top dollar for every skill position in the huddle. So I think that's kind of the two issues that you're seeing play out, and why some franchises are taking one approach and others that don't have Brady and Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes taking another. What people are finding, though, I heard your thing that what you talked about in Miami, and I think it's a perfect example. If you have Tua and he's a completion guy, short passes, get the ball out of his hand, what do you need? You need run after the catch. So they say, all right, who's the best run after catch, most dynamic guy with the ball in his hand? You'd say Deebo Samuel's in that picks. And of course, Tyreek Hill, they go out, they trade 5 picks for him. It elevates the play of the quarterback that they have coming back. So I think there's circumstances of the team and the organization that dictates why certain teams take different approaches.
Take me into the mind of a pro athlete. So as a tight end, you were a blocker, and that can limit your future. You get hurt by about year 7, 8, you got injuries. So Deebo Samuel, it was a little bit erratic. He could be good, he could disappear. And the Niners are like, listen, we want to make him productive every Sunday. So we're going to also implement him into our run game and passing, and he becomes way more consistent, and he pops. But he's sitting there thinking, I take a lot of hits. You take me into the mind of a pro athlete, and Deebo Samuel now thinking, I know it's better for the team, but it's not better for me. Is that selfish? Do you understand how he thinks? Your takeaway.
Yeah, I'd be curious if Deebo got the contract that he wants, right? He wants to be paid like a top-tier wide receiver, not necessarily a top-tier running back, although, McCaffrey and Kamara, those guys, yes, the top-tier running backs do make good money, but they're not making wide receiver money. So first and foremost, if I'm him, it's like years back when Jimmy Graham and even this year there was conversations about whether Gesicki down in Miami would challenge the franchise number of a tight end versus the franchise number of a wide receiver because of the different roles they played within the offense. If I'm Deebo, I want to make sure that the 49ers don't try to attach a contract to me that's more running back than it is wide receiver, because as we said before, the receiver market is just exploding. Now, if he could get paid like a receiver, I don't think he would have any issues. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think he has any issues with his usage. Guys like him, they want the ball. So whether it's a short little screen or a toss in the backfield or a traditional handoff, him with the ball is in everybody's best interest. Him, the team, everybody. But he just wants to make sure that, okay, if you're going to line me back up there at running back and I'm going to run between the tackles and you're going to toss me the ball, you're not going to pay me like one. You're still going to pay me like a wide receiver. And if you do that, I'll line up anywhere. To me, that's the mentality. And, now whether that's his exact approach or whatnot, I haven't seen him really complain about his usage as much as my understanding is more he doesn't want the team to pigeonhole him and say, well, you're kind of more of a running back than you are a traditional Davante Adams type receiver. I think that's the sticking point that they're going to have to figure out. But if they get that part right, I don't think he's going to have any issue lining up wherever Shanahan wants him.
So Green Bay's a really good team, but they don't stack up at the wide receiver spot nearly as much as the teams like the Rams or the Buccaneers in the NFC or several AFC teams. And so they're going to have to find somebody in the draft. They got Amari Rodgers last year at Clemson. He just didn't do much. You tell me, go back to your rookie year in the NFL. Can you expect, because they also want a tight end, by the way. There's rumors they want Darren Waller. You tell me if the Packers use a first-round pick and they get a tight end or they get a wide receiver. Go back to your rookie year. How much can you expect? I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I've seen trust issues. He's going to wait for you to prove that he can rely on you. Can they solve their issues in the draft, do you think?
Well, first off, if they somehow pull it, I don't know why Vegas would allow this, but if they could somehow snatch Darren Waller out, that's a game-changing move. I mean, he's a tight end, but he is one of those big body. He's playing receiver. He's running routes. He's not going to maybe be Davante Adams necessarily production-wise and movement-wise. He's a bigger body and whatnot. But I'll tell you what, Rodgers and LaFleur would have a blast trying to build an offense with that guy in it. He's an absolute stud. He's, as I told you at TEU last year, we had all the top tight ends from around the country, from around the league and everybody. He was the most physically impressive guy I've seen in a long time, just his body, the way he ran. So first off, if they somehow pull that off, which I don't know why the Raiders would allow it, but if they did, that would go a long way into, filling that void. Excuse me. But I think to that point about being a rookie, I don't know, unless you got the Calvin Johnsons of the world and just the Randy Moss and those really generational type receivers, I think it's hard to expect a rookie, especially where Green Bay is going to draft, to come in and replace Davante Adams from a production standpoint. I just don't think it's something you can hang your hat on and count on. Transitioning, let alone playing with Aaron Rodgers, who's, like you said, he's going to want things done a certain way. He's very hard on his guys. It took Davante Adams a long time to kind of earn that trust.
Yeah.
He was more of a Jordy Nelson guy, Randall Cobb, and then Davante kind of came along slowly. So I think it could be the answer long-term. Whether that's going to be the immediate kind of replacement of a guy like Davante Adams, I'm not quite sure if that's realistic.
By the way, go back to your draft day. Was it nerve-wracking?
Oh, so I always tell people my last draft, my draft was the last year that they had, 20 minutes between draft picks. So I got drafted 31st overall back, so there was no prime time first round then. So it was on Saturday afternoon. The first pick started at noon. So they take Jamarcus Russell and Calvin Johnson and Adrian Peterson, all the kind of usual suspects that everybody predicted were going to go. And then you start getting into the middle of the draft, which is kind of where you were rumored to go. And it's just 20 minutes in between. It takes an hour for 3 picks. So you do the math. You're the 31st pick. It was dinner time before I got selected. And it was, fortunately, since then they've changed the time, the clock in between, but it was a long day. It was a stressful day. And at the end of it, all you wanted, you don't want to be the guy that left school early and went in the second round. So fortunately, that didn't happen to me.
Good
but
stuff.
I was close.
Yep. Fox Sports NFL analyst and a great one, Greg Olsen. Great seeing you again, my man. Oh, by the way,
appreciate it, guys.
Bud Light,
Thanks,
NFL draft. He's working with Bud Light. Any fan 21 or older, if you correctly predict every first round pick, you win $15 million. If you can do that, we'll hire you.
How many could you get?
6. And I love it. 6.
I think you could get more than that.
8. See, I would take Sauce Gardner number 2. I would take Hutchison. I would take the corner number 2, so I'd screw it all up because I think that's the second best player I saw.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, take a shot at it. Go online, go to budlight.com/perfect draft. Take a shot. You can be even richer.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.